The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
I'm Vinnie Politan. The subject of my investigation is the death of baby Evelyn, a little girl who was reported missing almost 2 months after the last time anyone saw her. It is beyond tragic. Here's the story. Little baby Evelyn, a blue-eyed, blonde-haired bundle of absolute joy, was born in Tennessee. Her mom was Megan Boswell, a 17-year-old single mother. Evelyn and Megan lived on her family's compound with Evelyn's grandparents, Tommy and Angela, and Evelyn's uncle, Tommy Jr. At some point in December of 2019, Evelyn went missing, but no one reported her gone until February of 2020. It was her grandfather who called police, not her mother. When the investigation began, Megan's story allegedly changed and turned out to be false. She reportedly said Evelyn was with Grandma Angela and her grandma's boyfriend. Megan was arrested for providing false information. Then, Evelyn's body was found on the family compound in Megan's old playhouse. She was placed upside down in a trash can where she died. That trash can and all of its contents are crucial evidence in this case, and prosecutors believe Megan is the one who is responsible, and they have charged her with the murder of this little angel. It's hard to believe. Every time you cover this case, you cover this story, you get into the facts, you don't understand how anyone could do this. And it's a common theme that we see in the cases and the deaths of these young children. Like, how and why would you ever harm a young child? Especially your own, for goodness sake. That's the allegation here. Now, she was found in a trash can. Think about that, right? A child who's 13, maybe 15 months old, disposed of with the garbage in a trash can. I want you to take a look at a dramatic moment from inside the courtroom when the jury got to see that trash can where they found baby Evelyn.
This is the trash can we found that night at Muddy Creek. Yes, this trash can has gone under what I would say a significant analysis at this point. This black residue is going to be from the lab in Nashville placing dust on it in order to identify any fingerprints. Further, if I can set it down, if you can take a look around the rim and see how it looks irregular, that's not the way it looked that night.
When you say irregular, are you talking about the notches that are cut out?
Yes,
okay.
Yes, and you can see, there's tool marks where the lid of the trash can has been removed.
Okay, and so that is not how it looked when you took it into evidence that night?
Correct.
Okay.
This was a piece of gum that was removed from the inside of the trash can that I just showed you. This is the trash can that was inside the playhouse.
Okay.
And this is the piece of gum that we removed.
And can you explain to the jury why parts have been removed from the bag that you're holding? I believe you're holding up part of that.
Yes, I am. Again, similar to the trash can, this has undergone significant forensic testing. You can see the powder of the residue that would have been done at the Nashville lab. There is insect debris that we found in or on this trash bag. In this bag here, it has sheets of aluminum foil. Okay. It has some sheets that are by themselves, and there's a box where I had placed some sheets inside this box at a later time.
Okay. And where was that aluminum foil recovered?
It was inside the trash can around the victim's head.
Okay.
This is another piece that's wadded up that has some material on it.
Material, what do you mean?
This is going to be a combination of human decomposition as well as trash that was in the trash can. These are boxes that contain hair that was found on the floor. Is another piece of aluminum foil.
Okay. How many pieces of aluminum foil?
This is one piece.
Okay.
If I open it up, it may break apart.
Right.
Because it was sort of fragile or not a solid sheet by the way we recovered it.
Okay.
But it is one sheet.
Okay. And where was that recovered from?
This was around the head of the victim, Evelyn, inside of the trash can recovered at Muddy Creek. This is the outfit that the victim was wearing that night.
Okay.
When she was recovered.
Thank you.
It is a fleece blanket.
Okay. Any other descriptive things that you can reference to let everyone get? What does it look like?
So it's gray and white and has a like a running pattern through it.
Okay. And do you know where that was located?
Yes, this was inside the trash can.
Okay. And where was it located inside the trash can?
It was around the victim.
I still have a hard time believing that we're talking about a trash can. Okay. Let's talk about this trash can. It brings us to our first question tonight in our investigation, which is, what does the evidence in the trash can tell us? Right? You bring evidence into a courtroom because you're trying to prove something. You're trying to tell the story to the jury. So what is the story that this evidence in the trash can is telling us? The trash can where Evelyn was found. Joining us, she's on the phone outside the courthouse in Blountville, Tennessee tonight. Court TV legal correspondent Kelly Craft is with us, and also joining us, retired police officer, 2 decades, an expert at analyzing crime scenes. He now trains the investigators who go to these scenes. Dr. Mike McCutcheon is with us. Thank you both. Kelly, let me start with you. What is the story that this evidence and this trash can is telling to the jury?
Well, hi there, Vinnie. A very heartbreaking story. And as several pieces of evidence were shown to the jury, you can just see a lot of them are visibly shaken when the investigators are bringing out a lot of this evidence and showing it to the jury, especially that trash can. And in the opening statements, the prosecutor said that the defendant in this case threw her baby away just like you throw away trash. So when they brought then that trash can out for everyone to see, it just tells the story exactly what the prosecutor was saying, that this baby was discarded like trash. So heartbreaking moments inside the courtroom as they showed the trash can, the onesie the baby was wearing, the aluminum foil, and several other pieces of evidence. And even at one point, one of the jurors became ill because of the smell that was inside the courtroom because of this evidence, Vinnie. Unbelievable.
Dr. Mike McCutcheon, this is difficult work, but this is your line of work, right? This is what we're talking about. This is so important, so significant. And it seems like in this trash can where Evelyn was found, there's a lot of things that can tell us and provide a lot of evidence and sort of tell the story to the jury. Talk to me about the aluminum foil, the gum, the hair, the onesie. How difficult is it to analyze this stuff, and what are you expecting to take away from all of it?
There's a few things that we have to look at when you're looking at this crime scene. As we get closer to the body, you have to analyze that as, how did that suspect's DNA or fingerprints get on that? So the trash can itself, is it possible that someone else could have touched that trash can? Yes. Now we're going to use our circumstantial evidence and along with her statements, and yes, most likely she touched that trash can. But as we get closer to the aluminum foil that is actually wrapped around the baby, well, that you can't explain away. That you can't say, yeah, well, I had a trash can in my house and I put it out there and somebody else must have put the baby inside there. This, if there's any evidence on that aluminum foil, that is actually touching the body of the baby. And so therefore, that's going to be much stronger evidence. And that's the same with the gum that's in there. If you're processing that for DNA, what it's telling you is that whomever's DNA is on that gum was inside that trash can, utilizing that trash can. So that's going to be a critical piece of evidence. So the analysis and actually the substrate, so the surface that they're testing, is fantastic for fingerprints and DNA evidence. It holds really well, and so what they'll be able to get from that will actually be, I don't want to say easy, but it's a much easier substrate to get evidence off of those than some other crime scenes that they may be having to deal with.
Now, there was a second bag in that trash can. So there's a black bag, there's also a white bag. Let's listen.
It's one of the white trash bags that we've located inside the playhouse. Inside that white trash bag was another paper trash bag, and inside that was multiple items of trash, including baby bottles and baby food containers. It's another white trash bag that we removed from the playhouse, dollhouse on Muddy Creek, and again inside of it was numerous other items of trash.
Is there an expiration or best buy date on that egg carton there?
Yes, October the 6th, 19.
There.
Trash bag with trash inside of it, including a most prominent thing is a milk container.
All right. And again, does that milk container have an expiration date on it?
It does.
I don't know if you can see it or not. I'll zoom in on it. It's a sell-by date, sorry.
October 20th. There's a receipt, Northeast State Bookstore, with Megan Boswell's information on it.
All right. And that was removed from the
Trash can, yes, sir.
Kelly Kraft, I want to ask you, it seems some of this trash goes back to October, which is before Evelyn is missing. What's going on here? What are you taking away? What is the jury taking away from that timeline of trash that they were exposed to?
Yeah, and they've really been, putting out a lot of evidence in regard to the timeline. Now, remember that Megan's father is the one that reported her missing. This was in February of 2020. So then when they were showing this other evidence, the baby bottles in there, the water bottles, etc., you went back several months. And so the jurors are just going to piece all of that together, and obviously the state is going to wrap all that up when they make their final argument and closing arguments, when we do get to those. But they're really just putting together this timeline on how things were changing in the defendant's life and how eventually, according to the prosecution's theory, she just got tired of having to care for the baby.
Our guests are staying with us. Coming up next, why did it take so long to find Evelyn?
A cadaver dog searched the property that day and provided no hits. Is that correct?
According to the report.
The Court TV podcast will return.
Was a search conducted of Tommy Boswell's property on February the 23rd?
Yes. It appeared that after looking at my notes that Mr. Boswell Sr. had given written consent and permission for law enforcement to search his property.
Okay. And you recall who searched the property?
Yes, there were a team, or was a team there. There were members of the Sullivan County Sheriff's Office present, as well as at least one member, or I suppose two, of the Union County Sheriff's Office. And that would be Union County, Tennessee.
And A cadaver dog searched the property that day and provided no hits. Is that correct?
According to the report.
So Evelyn's grandpa, who owns the property, owns the family compound, gave police permission. Please search. Help find my granddaughter. And they searched. They even brought dogs, and they couldn't find little baby Evelyn. So what's going on this property? Cody Thomas, Court TV field reporter, takes a closer look at the family compound.
15-month-old Evelyn died on or about December 2019 after being suffocated. Her remains were found on her grandfather's property where she and her mother defendant, Megan Boswell, were living. Let's take a closer look at the crime scene. Now, you see right here, this is a hand-drawn map of the property belonging to Tommy Boswell. That's the father of Megan and the grandfather of Evelyn. Important to note about this hand-drawn map is that right here, this is ultimately the location of the playhouse where Evelyn's body was found. And close, right here in proximity, is the trailer where Megan and Evelyn were living on the property. And further up the road, this is where Megan's father, Tommy Boswell, Evelyn's grandfather, was living in a single-family home. So you kind of get a layout of the property, of the land where they are. But let's take a closer look at what this property looks like in real life. This is the gate to the property coming in. That's that long road up towards where Tommy Boswell lived. This is the home right here where Evelyn and Megan lived. Here's the outbuilding that's close by. You can see really when you get a real feel for it how close everything is on this expanse of land. But as the video continues, comes around this corner, and we actually get a peek at the playhouse where Evelyn's body was ultimately found. But let's take a closer look at this playhouse, because this is ultimately where Evelyn's body was found. The crime scene took place right here, the front door of the playhouse. But also to note about this image, if you look closely at this white image right here, that is the trash can where Evelyn's body was found by police. Now let's go closer in to the playhouse itself. You can see all of this around here is very junky, very messy, lots of places to hide things. But again, this image right here, that is the trash can where Evelyn's body was found, the daughter of Megan Boswell. Now let's take a closer look actually inside that trash can. Of course, you see this big blurred image right here. What you're not seeing behind this image that we've blurred, there's actually an image of Evelyn Boswell's legs and feet sticking out of this trash can. She was wrapped. You can see right here, this is a blanket. She was wrapped in a blanket. Near where her body is, you can kind of see little remnants of aluminum foil that she was also wrapped in, because medical examiners determined that she was killed by asphyxiation. But Boswell's defense says the prosecution doesn't know how Evelyn died, and no one can prove that Megan Boswell did it.
Watching that, I mean, that is eye-opening, right? I mean, you hear about the compound and like the land and everything else, but once you get to where they were living, where the playhouse was, and where the garbage can is, everything's kind of close, which brings us to the next question in our investigation, which is, why did it take so long to find Evelyn? Why? Still with us on the phone, Court TV legal correspondent Kelly Craft, who's at the courthouse, and Dr. Mike McCutcheon still with us as well. Kelly, I'll begin with you. I mean, to me, that is so eye-opening that everything is in close proximity, yet there was a search of the property and they didn't find Evelyn. I mean, it seems the playhouse is right next to where she was living.
Yeah, it's really remarkable that the first search, did not result in any findings, Vinnie. So they did a search with the cadaver dogs. This was February 23rd of 2020, and there were no findings. And then, of course, it took them till March to end up finding the body inside that playhouse. But they were going off of many conflicting stories that Megan was telling them, and as the prosecutors are saying, lie after lie. And so they were really just going down a bunch of different rabbit holes, if you will, because they were getting such conflicting information.
Dr. Mike McCutcheon, the other thing that strikes me, right, Kelly Craft talked about the smell from those items, right, inside the courtroom. Yep. Jurors could smell it. So they've got cadaver dogs there. searching the property. Are you surprised that if you go back in time, obviously it's way before, that the cadaver dogs didn't hit on the playhouse?
This is going to be a problem. This will definitely be a problem. The cadaver dog handlers, they need to be very specific on where they searched, because I can foresee where this is going to go, where the defense will likely say, yeah, the body wasn't there because the cadaver dogs didn't hit on it, and somebody must have put the body there after. I can see that that's where it would be going. So their documentation must be really accurate and detailed on what they did. But after, if the decomposition is, to get graphic, is the smell doesn't go away, and you would be able to smell anything that's decomposing from outside that shed or that playhouse without a cadaver dog. That it would be very common. It wasn't the baby wasn't covered or concealed to get graphic, to hold that odor in. Just walking by there, I don't know how you wouldn't be able to have smelled anything coming from that playhouse. I think that would have been dramatic, even when they're inside that playhouse.
Absolutely.
If I could, just one more thing I could say, the only thing is, bodies are strange, and it's hard to actually to make every crime scene fit together, because sometimes, and I've had this, where I have a body and it's laying down and there's no odor at all until I move the body, and now the parts that have been say decomposing, now you get the odor. So part of the body can actually mummify, and you may not have any odor. I don't think that's the case here, but it is possible. But that first search, it's going to come back to us.
Absolutely. Dr. Mike McCutcheon, thank you so much. Kelly Craft, working late tonight, thank you as well. Up next, can you believe any of Megan's stories? I'm Vinnie Politan. We continue our investigation of the death of baby Evelyn, whose mother was in foster care when Evelyn was born, and whose mother was locked up after she was found dead and discarded in a trash can. Here's the story. Little baby Evelyn lived with her single teenage mom, Megan Boswell, in Sullivan County, Tennessee. She was being raised with the help of her grandparents on the family compound. But in February of 2020, Evelyn was reported missing by her grandpa. Her mom cried on TV looking for her baby, then was arrested for misleading police. Things then changed dramatically in the case when Evelyn was found dead on the family compound in a trash bin inside an old playhouse. During the course of the investigation, when Evelyn was still missing, Megan spoke to police several times, telling several different stories. Megan has been charged with first-degree premeditated murder, and now a jury must decide if this young mother committed the ultimate sin by taking the life of the little girl who looked to her mom for everything. Telling several stories. That's a big part of this case, and that's a big part of this trial. I want to take a look at some of those stories. Let's start here. This is February 18th of 2020, and Megan Boswell is talking about Ethan Perry. Ethan is the man who believed he was the father of baby Evelyn. Take a listen.
Ethan does not have the baby. But I don't know where she's at, if he has yet or left. He has not seen that lady since he was down here for Christmas. He has seen her. I promise you, yeah.
Okay, so first talking about Ethan Perry. So he's on the radar for investigators. He's in the military. They go to his barracks. They do a search. They do all of that. They find out, no, he never had little Evelyn. Then she also talks about another guy, which is her boyfriend at the time that Evelyn goes missing. His name is Hunter Wood. Here she is talking about him.
What do you remember about that day? Did you wake up or what happened?
I don't know. I rolled over on her. I don't think I did. I think she did it. It was an accident.
He was with you? Was the three of y'all together? In the bed?
Between us.
Okay.
I should have put her just on my side. I slept with her almost every night of her life before that, and I never once rolled over on her.
But when you woke up, she wasn't breathing. Is that what you're telling us?
Her head was like buried in her pillow. She wasn't breathing.
Okay, so here now, you know, at first she was pointing the finger at Ethan Perry, the man that she said was the father of baby Evelyn. Now she's saying, well, Hunter Wood, must have rolled over on when we were sleeping. She says that on February 25th. Let's go back to February 20th now. This is after she talks about Ethan, and seems to be pointing the finger at someone else.
You had access to a phone at some point this morning. Out of everything in the world you could have been doing, why did you only call your mom? We need to know that.
I think she had Evelyn.
You think she has Evelyn? You think she has Evelyn, or you know?
I don't know she does because she wouldn't tell me.
Well, okay. What makes you think she has Evelyn?
Just because the way she's been acting and stuff like that.
So you think she's okay? You think Evelyn's okay?
I hope she is.
That's not okay.
I don't think Mom would do anything to hurt her. I think she's okay, yes, but I just don't know where she's at.
So now she's saying, Mom, Grandma has Evelyn. All right. All these stories, all these different versions, all this finger pointing brings me to the next question in our investigation. It's all about Megan and her stories. Can you believe any of Megan's stories? Any of them? Joining me, body language and human behavior expert Susan Constantine, and clinical and forensic neuropsychologist and author of The New Rules of Attachment, Dr. Judy Ho. Susan?
Yeah?
I think I found a tell.
Tell me what it is.
Megan Boswell is not telling the truth when you see her lips moving. Because it's always something different. What are you seeing from her? As in 3 different sit-downs with investigators, she's telling 3 different stories, pointing the finger at 3 different people.
Well, she's using a lot of qualifiers. One of them is a probability qualifier, which she's like looking at other possibilities of what could have occurred or what could have happened. So she uses a lot of qualifiers. She also uses an exclusion qualifier, meaning removing herself from it, and then therefore it adjusts the blame onto somebody else. Her responses are always so vague, right? She's using lots of omissions. She's leaving out really important, critical details. She's very ambiguous. So she doesn't really give you any sort of clear answers, allowing you to kind of mull through all of the baloney and try to come to some sort of conclusion. But it's impossible because her responses they're zigzagging. They're zigzagging all the way around, and there is no real direction that will help us to understand what is really happening. So it's all intentional. It's because it's deception. When you lie, there's cognitive load builds, and so therefore, since you can't keep the story straight, you come up with all these other excuses. So this is typical. It's really quite easy for me, and I'm sure for this doctor as well.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Judy Ho, I want to ask you something that's related to this. What do you think's going on in her mind? Does she believe, and she's a teenager, she's young, had a rough life, admittedly, but does she think she can convince people that something else is true? Is she buying time? Why is she even bothering to tell a different story every time?
Well, Susan made some great observations, and I will add that this is essentially a person who is a bit arrested in development. I mean, she is young, but she acts even younger than her chronological age. And you can tell even in the language that she uses with the detectives and the police. Things like, oh, I promise you, Ethan has seen him. Like, what does your promise have to do with anything? This is an investigation, right? A criminal investigation. But just the kind of language that she uses shows you how young her cognitive age is. And so when we think about it that way, I think that there probably was a part of her that thought, well, maybe if I just come up with enough of these types of stories that maybe I'll get the attention off of me. This could have been a coping strategy when she got in trouble when she was younger. It's like, hey, it's the other kid, or it's this other person over here. And there was a lot of that going on, but as Susan pointed out, so much of it was vague. She really couldn't get her story straight. The more truthful moment probably was when she broke down, as you mentioned, when she finally said, I think I rolled over her and I killed her, because then you saw a real emotional reaction. But I think if she was allowed to keep telling more stories, she would have blamed even more people. I think she was just hoping that at some point the detectives would say, okay, we're going to go interview these people instead, and now you're off the hook.
And they did speak to all of them. Susan Constantine, I want you to take a look. Here's Megan on February 20th again, here again, talking about her mom.
Okay, Mom came and got her from my trailer.
When?
I was working and Mom came over to my trailer to babysit.
When?
I don't know exactly. It was
Today? Yesterday?
No, it
3
was
days
like
ago?
a week or so after I started work, because I had nobody else to watch.
When did you start work?
The 2nd.
Of December?
Yeah.
The 2nd of December?
Yeah.
Okay, 12/2. Angel. God's. Evelyn.
No, it was a week after that.
Okay.
It was my second week of work, I'm sorry. Mom got mad at me and she left, and she took Evelyn with her.
With your permission?
No.
Okay. When was this? Same day?
No, it's a couple days after. She stayed with me for maybe like 3 or 4 days.
So what day are we talking about? The 10th, 11th, 12th December, something like that? 12. Okay, 10. And then what happens?
I didn't talk to her for over a month, and then she called the chicken shack and said that she needed to talk to me.
When did she call the chicken shack?
Sometime in January, I don't remember the exact date.
Angel called.
It would have had to been after, like, I want to say it was maybe like, I went to court the day that she called me.
Why were you? For what?
Reckless driving.
Okay, where at?
Washington County.
Okay, right. Court, Washington County, the day she called you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What happens next?
She took me to her place to Elizabeth, and Evelyn was not there. She would not answer any questions about her. All she would tell me was that she was okay, and if I gave her time, she would give her back to me.
Susan, we're out of time, but I want to ask you, are you getting Casey Anthony vibes from her in this part?
Oh, CA all the way. And GA blaming GA, but which is Mom.
Yep, unbelievable. We're out of time, unfortunately. We will talk again. Dr. Judy Ho, Susan Constantine, thank you so, so much. Still to come, who is Hunter Wood?
The defendant's boyfriend at the time, Hunter Wood, did he cooperate with law enforcement?
Yes.
Was Hunter Wood investigated?
Yes, he was investigated.
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
Ms. Grace, we were talking about Hunter Wood.
Yes.
And you indicated that sometime later you become aware that he was schizophrenic.
I knew he was having some mental health issues. I'm not sure that I knew the actual diagnosis, but I am aware of issues.
Did you investigate his health issues in relation to this case? And for instance, what I'm asking is, the first time I asked you about schizophrenia, you seemed to indicate that you knew that.
I knew he had some type of mental health issues, yes.
Did you investigate, give consideration to the possibility that the tinfoil could be related on the baby, could have been placed there by someone with mental health issues?
We did a significant investigation into the tinfoil, yes, and it underwent what I would call significant forensic analysis to determine whether there is any type of DNA or fingerprints on the tinfoil.
Okay, but short of forensic analysis, did you all investigate, is there something that might make someone place tinfoil on a child. Like, for instance, people with schizophrenia are known to wear tinfoil hats.
Did you hear that? The tinfoil was wrapped around baby Evelyn's head when she was found. And the defense attorney, on cross-examining the investigator, talks about, well, Hunter Wood, schizophrenic, tinfoil hats, right? Doesn't that make sense to you? So it looks like the defense is going after Hunter Wood. I want you to take a listen to Randy Wood. This is Hunter's father talking about his mental health issues.
Your son, Hunter, does he still live with you?
No, he started living with his mother, but he's at a hospital at the moment.
Okay. He's at a hospital. Where is he in a hospital?
Marion, Virginia.
All right. Is that a mental hospital?
Yes.
How long has he been there?
2 months.
Okay. What, have you been up there to see him at that facility?
Yes.
What is his mental status this time?
Well, some days he's pretty decent. Other days he don't know who I am.
Okay. Would he be able to come into this courtroom and testify?
No.
Okay. You mentioned that he'd been there for about 2 months.
Yes.
Had he had mental health problems prior to that?
Yes.
Okay. When did he, if you know, when did he start having mental health problems?
Well, when he got accused of being a baby killer.
Wow. Now he's being accused. It seems like the defense, this is where they're going, right? Go after someone who's in a mental facility who was connected to the defendant. This was her boyfriend at the time that Evelyn went missing. Brings us to the next question in our investigation. Who is Hunter Wood? How much do we know about him? How much of an investigation was there of this young man? Seems to be crucial now. With us, anchor and reporter at WCYB TV. She has followed this case from the beginning, has been inside the courtroom for the trial. Kristen Kwan is with us, and America's judge. He presided over the Casey Anthony trial, the Honorable Belvin Perry. Great to have you both here. Kristen, what can you tell us about Hunter Wood? How much do we know about his background and who he is?
Yeah, so Hunter Wood was Maggie Boswell's boyfriend at the time that all of this took place. They hadn't dated for very long. They met at Hunter T's Chicken Shack, which you heard Randy Wood testify there. He actually owned Hunter T's Chicken Shack, and Megan came in for an interview one day, and so she worked at Hunter T's for a while, and that's where she met Hunter Wood.
All right, Judge, I see what's happening here. And again, the parallels are unreal between this case and the case that you presided over a few years ago at this point. In that case, I mean, Kaylee Marie's mother is talking about Jesse Grund, her ex-fiancé. In this case, you've got Megan talking about Ethan, the man who was supposedly the father of baby Evelyn. Then the current boyfriend. You know, Kaylee Marie's mother was dating Anthony, the DJ. Here she's dating Hunter, and they're going after Hunter. Do you think there will be any traction in all of this? If you've got someone they point the finger at who happens to be in a mental facility, you know, taking care of some mental health issues?
Number one, the prosecution is going to have to shore up this timeline as to where Hunter Woods was during this time period where the child went missing. Unfortunately for the defense, they're pointing fingers at everyone. And the question that the jury is going to have to ultimately resolve, which lie are you going to believe? There will more than likely be absolutely no evidence other than the defense attorney's imagination that Hunter Woods was actually involved in this particular case.
Let's take a listen here to former TBI agent David Gratz talking about Megan and Hunter looking for an apartment.
This is an application for applying for a residence at Overlook Apartments.
Okay. And can you tell us why you looked at Overlook Apartments?
We were given information that the defendant had applied to live there with her boyfriend.
Okay. Her boyfriend,
Hunter Wood.
when were they looking to try to get an apartment at Overlook Apartments?
January the 4th, 2020.
Did you learn how many occupants that the defendant and Hunter Wood put on their application?
Yes, 3.
Okay. Did you talk to the defendant about who the third occupant was going to be?
Yes, I did.
Did the defendant say the third occupant was going to be Evelyn Boswell?
No.
Okay, go ahead, sorry.
The defendant told us that at that time she was pregnant and the third occupant was for the unborn baby.
Okay. So then did you go one step further and ask her why Evelyn was not listed on that application?
Yes, yes, I did.
Okay, what did she say?
She told us it was not Evelyn because Hunter either would not or did not want Evelyn to live with him.
All right, Kristen, let me ask you, historically in this case, you know, it began with the Amber Alert, right, for the public's knowledge of all of this and the search for a child. And there was a lot of focus on Evelyn's grandma, Angela, initially, and Angela's boyfriend, and that seemed to be a big, big focus. At any point prior to this trial, was Hunter Wood the focus of the investigation or the focus of the public? Were people talking about Hunter Wood before the trial?
Yeah, I don't know about necessarily like the focus by law enforcement, but he definitely was a focus for the public when all of this came out. When we started interviewing people related to this case, we, of course, tried to track down Angela Boswell, Megan's mother, William McLeod, the boyfriend at the time, Tommy Boswell, Megan's father. But we also were trying to track down Hunter as well. I did actually speak to him for a little bit off camera for a little bit, but I definitely think the public wanted to know more information about who he was.
And Judge, we only have a few seconds here, but isn't it amazing how this case also involves looking for an apartment?
Very strange, Vinnie.
Can't make it up.
You can't.
You can't make it up. We're out of time tonight, but I really want to thank both of you for joining me. Kristen Kwan, WCYB, and of course, America's Judge, Belvin Perry. All right, listen, every defense attorney will have a defense. That's their job. That is their ethical duty. That being said, when the defense starts throwing out theories like spaghetti at a wall, be skeptical, because many times they're just trying to see if anything will stick. But like properly cooked al dente spaghetti, a properly presented prosecution will keep any of it from sticking. And that's their job, to prove the case. I'm Vinnie Politan. We'll keep digging for answers as the investigation continues.
This is the Court TV Podcast.
So we had a verdict today. Joining us outside the courthouse in Blountville, Tennessee, Court TV legal correspondent Kelly Kraft. Kelly, great to see you tonight. It's a verdict night. It was a verdict day. And from my perspective, I never know what a jury's going to do, but it seems to me the truth came out in court today. What happened?
Well, hi there, Vinny. So the jurors came back this morning right after 8. It was 8:05 exactly to continue their deliberation. So they began deliberating yesterday, came back this morning, and it didn't take very long after that, just a little bit more time, and then they ended up coming back with their verdict. You're taking a look at Megan Boswell there as she makes her way into the courtroom today. She eventually was found guilty, especially on that top charge. She was found guilty on every single charge, so every offense that was brought forth by the state. During that reading of the verdict, she was crying. She had tissue. She was wiping away tears. Why don't we go ahead and listen to the judge reading that verdict?
To judgment of this court, you are guilty. In count 2, a jury of your peers having found you guilty of first-degree murder and the perpetration of a felony, is a judgment of this court, you are guilty. In count 3, a jury of your peers having found you guilty of first-degree murder and the perpetration of a felony, it's a judgment of this court you are guilty. In count 4, a judgment of your peers having found you guilty of aggravated child abuse, it's a judgment of the court you are guilty. In count 5, a jury of your peers having found you guilty of aggravated child neglect, it's a judgment of the court you are guilty. In count 6, a jury of your peers having found you guilty of tampering with evidence, it's a judgment of the court you are guilty. In count 7, a jury of your peers having found you guilty of false report, it's a judgment of the court you are guilty. In count 8, a jury of your peers having found you guilty of false report, it's a judgment of the court you are guilty. In count 9, a jury of your peers having found you guilty of false report, it's a judgment of the court you are guilty. In count 10, a jury of your peers having found you guilty of false report, it's a judgment of the court you are guilty. In count 11, a jury of your peers having found you guilty of false report, it's a judgment of the court you are guilty. In count 12, a jury of your peers having found you guilty of false report, it's a judgment of the court you are guilty. Count 13, a jury of your peers having found you guilty of false report, it's a judgment of the court you are guilty. Count 14, a jury of your peers having found you guilty of false report, it's a judgment of the court you are guilty. In count 15, a jury of your peers having found you guilty of false report, it's a judgment of the court you are guilty. In count 16, a jury of your peers having found you guilty of false report, it's a judgment of the court you are guilty. In count 17, a jury of your peers having found you guilty of false report, it's a judgment of the court you are guilty. In count 19, a jury of your peers having found you guilty of abuse of a corpse, it's a judgment of the court you are guilty. And in count 20, a jury of your peers having found you guilty of failure to report a death under suspicious, unusual, or unnatural circumstances, it's a judgment of the court you are guilty. In counts 4 through 20, the jury did not assess a fine, so there'll be no fine assessed in those counts.
7 men, 5 women made that decision, finding that baby Evelyn mattered. That's one of the things the state said during its close. Baby Evelyn mattered, and she asked the jury to come back with that guilty, especially on that top charge of first-degree murder. When the jurors walked in, you could tell from their faces, most of them had their faces down to the floor as they walked in. I noticed one gentleman eventually raise his head and smile at some of the people behind me, and then they delivered their verdict, Vinnie.
I look at this verdict, and it was, you know, there was some concern, I think, from some folks because of the way the medical examiner's testimony went in about cause and manner of death and other potential possibilities, etc. But at the end of the day, to me, this is a common sense case. And there was no real defense. There was no defense presented. It was just, did they have enough evidence to prove it? Not that there's any other possibility out there, right? The defense really didn't leave him with another possibility. Well, maybe Hunter did it because he's in a hospital with mental health issues, and there was tinfoil. But there was no real evidence of any other scenario other than the person who had the custody, care, and control of this little girl, and then said nothing, did nothing until she started to lie. And that baby was found right next to the trailer they lived in the playhouse that she played in when she was a child. So
now, back to the Court TV podcast.
Court TV legal correspondent Kelly Craft. Kelly, let's talk about this sentencing. There's a lot going on. First, what was the decision that the choice that the jury had? What was the decision they delivered today?
So they could choose between, Vinnie, life in prison or life in prison with the possibility of parole after 51 years behind bars. So they went with the latter. So life in prison with the possibility, so she can be eligible for parole after 51 years. So that was the decision. Defense counsel put forth a lot of mitigating evidence, talking about the background of her life, Megan Boswell's life, and calling to the stand 3 witnesses. Megan's mother, Angela Boswell, who had a lot to say about the upbringing. You're taking a look at Angela right there. She broke down on the stand. Why don't we go ahead and listen to what she said about the childhood of Megan Boswell.
I've learned the importance of a mother's role, but not for Megan, I didn't.
All right.
I failed her on that miserably.
And you're here asking the jury to give her a sentence of life as opposed to life without.
It's Maggie is at her core. She is a generous, kind person. And they're all Maggie's went through. Maggie still has potential. You know, she was trying so hard. You know, she didn't repeat my mistakes. Maggie learned from my mistakes. And she was trying to do better with Eve. You know, she wasn't repeating. And I think she got saddled with, just because of my mistakes.
Would it be fair to say she didn't have a good role model for the mother should be?
No, she did not.
Angela talked about how she became pregnant herself at 15 years old, eventually married the father, Tommy Boswell, and just going on and on about the life and the upbringing of Megan Boswell.
Now, after court, after Megan's mother testifies, my understanding is she ends up getting arrested again.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, Vinnie. So, yeah, as soon as she got done testifying, she was arrested. And so it was within 7 minutes of being on the stand, and she talked about how she's gotten better and that she's been praying. And then she walks out of the courtroom and she's arrested. And these were some outstanding warrants for her arrest. Some low-level crimes, but still outstanding issues that she needs to tend to. And so, so she was arrested right away.
Yeah, that might, that could help Megan if they would have arrested her right there in the courtroom in front of everyone. We also heard from Megan's foster mom.
Megan's foster mom, Miss Kites, she had a lot to say about how Megan Boswell was really sweet, how she really cared for Evelyn. So the foster mom got Megan when Megan was 17 years old. She, from the story or from what she was testifying to on the stand, Megan Boswell was dropped off at a church with her baby at one time, and then she had to come back and pick her up. But this was after she had Megan Boswell for a while, and then Megan tried to return back home to her family. But when she was with her foster mom, her foster mom said that she came to her house after she was a rape victim. She was pregnant with baby Evelyn. She was 17 years old, and she talked about just how neglected she looked and malnutrition and so skinny. And so she had a lot to say as well, Vinnie. I believe we have a little bit of her testimony.
This child has been traumatized. She's made bad mistakes that has to be paid for. But I think she deserves a chance to come back out to the real world. I don't think she's irredeemable.
And Vinnie, so the jury listened, and they are going to give Megan a chance. So after 51 years, she'll be eligible for parole. We asked the prosecutors about that afterwards, and they talked about the sentencing hearing that's coming up in May. And so she will be sentenced on some other charges as well. So it's going to be up to the judge. You can have the sentences run concurrently or consecutively, as you know. So we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, that consecutively could really put a wrinkle in everything. Great job, as always, Kelly Craft.
There you have it. If you want to see more in-depth reporting on the latest true crime stories, you can see me every weeknight, 8 p.m. Eastern on Closing Arguments. Thank you so much for downloading. And as always, please don't forget to hug the kids.
This podcast is a production of Court TV. Go to CourtTV.com for more content, trials on demand, and to find out how to watch Court TV in your area.